Welcome to Hypnosis Today, the nation's first TV talk show that explores the fascinating world of hypnotherapy. Hello, my name is Lisa Machenberg, and I will be your host, covering a wide variety of subjects to help you understand the power of the subconscious mind and how hypnosis is being used today to help people achieve success, prosperity, and happiness. Today, it is my pleasure to introduce my very special guests. We have Isaiah McGee. Now, Isaiah is a graduate of HMI College of Hypnotherapy. He is also a regular contributor to Awareness Magazine, Science of the Mind Magazine, and Los Angeles Magazine. Please be sure to check out his articles on empowerment. And he has brought with him today his client, Radka. And today, our topic is going to be silencing the inner critic. Please help me welcome my guests. Now, Radka, I'd like to start with you. What brought you into hypnotherapy?
Well, I had been in traditional therapy for about 2 years, and a friend of mine was going to Isaiah, and she kept witnessing me doing the same patterns over and over, and she kept talking about him and saying how I should go see him. And I was kind of like, what is hypnotherapy? It sounds kind of, I don't know, kooky. And she's like, no, it's great. So I went to Isaiah, and ever since I've been going in for about a year, and it's great.
Talk to me about some of the patterns that you became aware of in traditional talk therapy that you were able to break those patterns as you came in to see Isaiah.
Well, what Isaiah taught me is how the mind works. And in traditional therapy, I sort of got a map to who I was, how I was raised, and why I was acting the way that I was or feeling the way I was. But with Isaiah, he really taught me how my mind was sort of repeating itself and making the same patterns and how I was programmed. Mm-hmm. And he has helped me have a better understanding of how my mind works. And so now when I see myself behaving that way, I know why it's happening and I can watch it.
So you have the insight, and then you're able to break the pattern because you have the awareness. Mm-hmm. Isaiah, I want to go to you for a moment now. And when you're doing an intake on a client, especially like Radka, who has a lot of insight and really understands what's going on, what do you do on a first session?
Well, what I found, Lisa, is that everybody has anxiety about whatever issues they are grappling with. Mm-hmm. And that anxiety can often be in the way of any therapeutic support and assist that you want to submit to them. So what I do in the initial intake session is that I do a process in the hypnotherapy and the imagery that I employ that allows them to decompress, to release the anxiety that has built up unconsciously and subconsciously regarding whatever the issue is or the frustration is with them. So in the intake, what I do is I really find myself listening very intently so that I can really pick up what kinds of associations they've made that has contributed to whatever the issue is or the constriction is. And I find that in the initial intake session, by providing a particular kind of imagery, I find that I am able to really decompress all of the anxiety they've had regarding the issue, and that then allows them to be very receptive to whatever the therapeutic support and assist is going to be.
Radka, do you remember the imagery that Isaiah used on the first session?
Yes.
Can you tell us about it?
So he had me transport myself on a magic carpet to a place that I found really peaceful, which is like the beach and tropical island. And then he had me put the image and do a series of turning around and really talking me through this image and how it made me feel and minimizing the image. And I remember it was one of the first sessions, and I really remember it clearly because he had me turn around and the image got smaller and smaller, and I wasn't satisfied. I was like, I want this image like totally gone. Yes. So at the end of the imagery, he had me turn around. It was small, and in my mind I remember going, I'm turning back around one more time. And I turned around one more time, and then it was gone. And it just felt amazing to have a perspective on how you can really, really make that scary thing so small or almost disappear.
I'll tell you what I love about what you just said is that you were able, because all hypnosis, especially with a very talented hypnotherapist, Well, you're learning the skills to be able to do it yourself.
Mm-hmm.
And you were able to take the paradigm, even in a first session, that Isaiah taught you, and adapt it a little bit, saying, no, I'm turning back around. And I'm turning back around again and making it even smaller. And that really gives tribute to what you said about really listening. I always say as hypnotherapists, we are not installing telephones, we're not selling golf balls, we're not even digging ditches. We are professional listeners. Talk to me about those associations, about how you capture the associations.
Well, oftentimes people, when they're expressing how they're feeling and what's going on with them, they'll use metaphors and not even realizing that they're using metaphors. And what I find myself doing, in fact, she's often commented on how I'm taking copious notes as she's sharing with me. And what I am doing is that I'm noting what associations she's making, I'm noting what kind of metaphors she's using to express the feelings or the constriction or the frustration and that kind of thing. And then what I find myself doing is that I interpret that as a hypnosis treatment. And then what I find myself doing is employing imagery that utilizes what she already can relate to and has identified with, so that it is meaningful for her and it is relevant for her.
Exactly. Now, we have been talking about the inner critic. What was your inner critic? What was your voice telling you?
Pretty much in any situation, I was just very self-critical, as in that I could handle it better, or that I was going to fail, that I wasn't good enough, this, that. And I felt like instead of focusing on the positives, I was just really wrapped up in that negative state of mind.
Was it one aspect of your life?
For me, it was relationships. And after having a really difficult relationship, I became sort of self-critical and like I wasn't doing anything right. And then I learned through that process of working with Isaiah that I was doing that in other aspects of my life.
What other aspects? Were you doing it in your professional life too?
Yeah, professionally.
May I ask what you do?
I'm a women's clothing store owner.
How many people here would like to have some retail therapy? Raise your hand. We'll go visit that store right after the show. So you were doing it both personally, and you got the insight or the awareness, the common denominator, that you were taking it in all aspects of your life. So as you were telling yourself you're not good enough, you could have done better, you're not doing it right, what did you use to help Radka be able to quiet that inner voice?
Oftentimes we would discuss what makes her feel authentic and what makes her feel genuine. And in discussing what makes her feel authentic and what makes her feel genuine, what I found myself doing was, rather than trying to negate or keep something at bay or to discipline something away, I found myself really empowering her to recognize what about her doesn't need fixing. And in sharing and submitting to her what it is, or reflecting back to her what it is about her that doesn't need fixing, then what she was finding is that she was able to recognize that there's a part of her that has not participated or been consumed by or victimized by her conditioning and that self-critic that was in her. And so I found myself through the sessions that we've had is continuing to empower that part of herself that has not bought into what has occurred and what has happened and what it is that she regrets. And in doing that, she has found herself shifting more and more and more into identifying with that woman in her rather than identifying with that harsh critic.
Sure. Radka, what does your inner voice tell you now?
Well, my inner voice pretty much tells me I can do whatever I want, be myself, and not worry so much.
How are your relationships now?
A lot better.
Yeah, and that retail store?
Great.
Good. You know, I'm going to just reflect back on something that you said right when we began, that you were initially resistant to hypnotherapy because it sounded, I'll use your word, kooky. I'm a professional listener too, Isaiah. But now that you've actually experienced it, you know, with the encouragement of your friend, what do you think about hypnotherapy?
I think it's really cool. I think it's really cool because Isaiah explains to me how the mind works. And for me, when I have that understanding, then I feel like it all makes sense, why I am the way that I am, and there's something I can do about it.
Sure. And what would you say to a friend who says, that's too kooky. That's too kooky for me. What would you say?
It's hard because I have a lot of people asking about it because they've seen a change in me.
Yes.
And I tell them it's a personal experience and that you should just be open-minded to it and go for it. And then if you don't like it, fine. But I think it's a very personal experience and it's difficult to explain.
Yes. It is difficult to explain. But you know what? The changes are undeniable. And you feel like your life has definitely changed because of the hypnotherapy. Tell us the best thing that you've taken away from your hypnotherapy work with Isaiah.
The best thing is that I can just be myself and that's fine.
And you're okay the way that you are.
Yeah.
There's a lot of you that doesn't need fixing, and yet that you can capture and you can do anything that you want to do. That's pretty powerful. Yeah. Well, I want to thank my guests, Isaiah McGee, and if you would like to reach Isaiah McGee to find out more about quieting the inner critic, or would like to check out his articles in Los Angeles Magazine, Science of the Mind Magazine, and Awareness Magazine, or you would like to talk to him about empowerment or quieting your inner critic, you can reach Isaiah McGee on hmigrads.com. And I want to thank my very special guest, Radka, for coming on and sharing her experience in hypnotherapy. Thank you so much. Looks like we're going to take a short break, but please stay tuned because when we come back, we're going to talk to another hypnotherapist and his client, and we're going to discuss how you can use past life regression for symptom relief with hypnotherapy. We'll be right back. Thank you so much. You came in to see Isaiah.
Well, what Isaiah taught me is how the mind works. And in traditional therapy, I sort of got a map to who I was, how I was raised, and why I was acting the way that I was or feeling the way I was. But with Isaiah, he really taught me how my mind was sort of repeating itself and making the same patterns and how I was programmed. And he has helped me have a better understanding of how my mind works.
And he has brought with him today his client, Radka. And today our topic is going to be silencing the inner critic. Please help me welcome my guests. Now, Radka, I'd like to start with you. What brought you into hypnotherapy?
Well, I had been in traditional therapy for about 2 years, and a friend of mine was going to Isaiah, and she kept witnessing
The power of the subconscious mind and how hypnosis is being used today to help people achieve success, prosperity, and happiness. Today, it is my pleasure to introduce my very special guests. We have Isaiah McGee. Now, Isaiah is a graduate of HMI College of Hypnotherapy. He is also a regular contributor to Awareness Magazine, Science of the Mind Magazine, and Los Angeles Magazine. Please be sure to check out his articles on empowerment.
seeing me doing the same patterns over and over, and she kept talking about him and saying how I should go see him. And I was kind of like, what is hypnotherapy? It sounds kind of, I don't know, kooky. And she's like, no, it's great. So I went to Isaiah, and ever since I've been going in for about a year, and it's great.
Talk to me about some of the patterns that you became aware of in traditional talk therapy that you were able to break those patterns as Welcome to Hypnosis Today, the nation's first TV talk show that explores the fascinating world of hypnotherapy. Hello, my name is Lisa Machenberg, and I will be your host, covering a wide variety of subjects to help you understand